Morning, welcome to Hunter Gatherer Cooking. We're day 2 of the Stalking Show 2024. It's been absolutely amazing so far. We've had some fantastic guests and some videos that hopefully you've seen before. But today I've got Julian from Red Oak Genetics, who's going to talk to me all about what they're doing and trying to raise awareness of venison. So Julian, do you want to talk about what Red Oak Genetics actually does?
Yeah, so Red Oak Genetics set it up about 30 years ago. Really, I was at Woburn Abbey, worked there from 1992 to 2002.
Right.
And gave me a real passion for deer. As a student before, I worked with deer at Powderham Estate in Devon, so did a little bit with the wild deer and park deer, but Woburn's an amazing place. The history there goes back to the 1800s, where the 9th Duke rescued the Père David from China, and that was an amazing. If you think that the Emperor of China gave the 9th Duke 18 Père David, by 1900s the one in China died, and the only ones left were the 12 at Woburn Abbey. I went to Woburn in 1992 and there were 600 at Woburn at that point. We took 79 back to China, and now there's 10,000 Père David in China. So the history of what Woburn did and the Victorians did really in that Rothschild era and the Duke of Bedford got me inspired to do deer for my career in life. So after Woburn I travelled the world, and really I love food as well, so it worked in tandem really of going around the world learning about cuisine and food and venison as well as working with deer. So then I came back to the UK, and yeah, my story is really I have a passion for deer. I love catching deer where people can't catch them. I used to, as a boy, break in Arabs with my mum, so I had an understanding for animal intelligence really.
Yeah.
So that's what sort of I do, and alongside that is venison. I don't quite understand why 76% of our venison goes to Europe. Why?
Oh, right.
Yeah. So why we don't we eat enough venison here? When we look at the prices of lamb and beef, and we've got this natural product out there, and it's very expensive in the supermarkets, but we're getting very little for it. What we want is a sustainable product at a very level price. So a few years ago, I had someone approached me basically wanting to get a good product. I do a lot with deer parks, so it's a very sustainable product in deer parks because we can manage a population. We can also gralloch them very well in a clean larder, so that was really good. So we now do 2,500 carcasses in through a supermarket or residuals, and have a really good price of £3.50 a kilo with skin on, which is what we want. And the guys that work, we have about 15 parks altogether, and they understand that price isn't going to go higher or lower, but every year they know exactly where they are, and that employs people into deer parks, and we keep these lovely deer going in stately homes. So.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Now, if someone walks over to the stand today, the first thing that they're going to see is this monster of a set of antlers.
Yeah, and I do hear, this is obviously from New Zealand. Actually, New Zealand never had any deer that they had, native deer at all. All the deer they have in New Zealand came from abroad. Actually, Woburn Abbey supplied deer in the 1840s to New Zealand. So the only reason the red deer are so big in New Zealand is 9 months of lovely weather and good protein grass.
Yeah.
These guys are doing millions of cows, and what happens is the markets for cows in China comes and goes. So when the market for cows goes in China, or milk, then they go into deer farming in New Zealand. So that's the way it works. So Woburn and other estates in England have supplied New Zealand for a long time, and that's why these heads are big. And the reason my heads are big really is because, if you look back in the 1500s, there were bigger antlers around Europe than we have now.
Right.
But obviously, unfortunately, through the hunting of the Victorians, they shot all the big heads, and it's still going on to this day now. The amount of times I hear people say, well, if it crosses onto the other estate, someone else is going to shoot it, so I need to shoot it now.
Right.
Our problem with deer in this country is the females need shooting. They're the ones that are breeding. Let's leave the stags to do their job, and let's get onto the females. And what we'll find as well is that, working at places like Woburn, where it's in a controlled environment, the wall is about 9.5 miles round, 3,000 acres, so very good controlled with a lot of animals, like the muntjac. And what happens with a lot of deer, if there's too many females, the males are rutting so hard that the following year that energy is exceeded so much that there's not enough energy to put out to the antler. So if there's less females, and the boys haven't got 100 females to rut, but they've got 20 females to rut, then there'll be more energy gained to suppress back to next year to the antler growth.
Right.
So what happens is, once they've rutted, all the acorns and beech mass, they gain that nutrition, and that's then released in the spring next the following year. very much antler is shown by, the amount of energy they've worked with the rut, but also the food that they get given depending on the season we have.
Yeah.
So it's all down to the stalker really to produce these big heads, just with good management. And it can be done in the wild just the same as it can be in the park.
Yeah. And so is it just parks that you go to, or do you do anything with the wild?
Yeah, I do wild as well. But it's great because in the park it's a controlled environment.
Of course.
So I just mirror that image in the wild. The biggest problem I have in the wild is getting stalkers or landowners working together.
Right.
Unfortunately, they maybe talk the talk, but we have big groups of deer, and those deer, if they're persecuted hard by 1-2 stalkers, they're going to go to next door. So if we all work together as a group, and there is groups around, but I go to these groups and they say they're working together, but they're not, they're doing their own things. So we can get onto these big deer numbers by really getting together and making a plan.
Yeah.
And also reading these deer movements before we start shooting. We need to look at their migration of where they're going. If you look at East Anglia, the same deer go from Elvedon Estate to Thetford to Shadwell to Euston.
Yeah.
They're no one's deer in particular, they're everyone's deer. And let's work together and we can all, and we can manage these populations.
So for anyone who's sort of wondering how you sort of do live capture and things like that, how does that work? Is that just a case of putting food down? And
yeah, I love it. Everywhere is different. Depends, I do this all over the world, depending where we are. I was in Bulgaria recently teaching 20 people how to capture red deer. On that, it was on horseback because the wild deer are quite happy with the horses, so we're darting on horseback.
Wow.
Other places will be live capture, will be with pens. We might fence a large area. In Ireland,
is that when the doors sort of drop down?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So in Ireland, what we'll do is migratory seeker deer, massive amounts of seeker. So they'll come on the land, and I'll put in, maybe 40-acre fences, like a mini park, and then we'll put in legumes, so chicory. Chicory's a great one, lucerne and clovers. So we'll let them go through for about 2-3 months, and then one day we'll shut it. I use magnetic doors a lot. I've actually used cameras off Zeist as well.
Right.
So what we do, have them live feed, and then I'll let them go in for a few weeks, and then a magnetic door, I can text the door and it will shut it. And then the next morning I'll have 500 deer in the trap.
Wow.
And maybe this is a way we can look at, we can get licenses through Natural England and look at capturing some of these big fallow populations. And it might seem unnatural, but actually what's more stressful from stalking them from year on year and not getting the numbers done, whereas we can capture these big amounts where they're doing devastating damage on crops. It's only a thought.
Yeah. And Watonga, what's your involvement there?
Yeah, so Watonga has been a passion of mine to set something up for years and years. I've worked very fortunately, Woburn Abbey, Holcombe, Houghton, and lots of places around the world, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, wherever. But it's getting the right person really. And I felt that I was actually at Houghton. Stately homes are great, but they're big organisations. Sometimes not the passion there for the deer. They feel the deer is just an extra, but actually a lot of people come to these stately homes for the deer.
Yeah.
Because I think they don't realise.
In Bristol, I don't know if you know Bristol, we've got Ashton Court.
Yeah.
And again, that's what people go to see.
Absolutely.
Because it's this magical, animal, isn't it?
So I wanted somewhere really. I work with British Deer Farms and BDFBA, basically, British Deer Farms and whatever. Deer Tag, which is another real passion of mine. So about 20 of us get together and we look at all the deer around the world and the most endangered deer. We're actually looking at catching giant muntjac in Laos at the moment.
Right.
So I give my advice and expertise in that because I've caught a lot of muntjac around the world. And then we're looking at, in Greece, there's a population of fallow, high numbers, but they're unique to Greece and Ireland.
Right.
So they're devastating the island, but they're very unique. So we're looking catching wild fallow there. So I wanted somewhere that if we got organisations together, BDS, Basque, whatever, I don't want to go, when I go around the world and we have these conferences, I go to a chocolate factory or I go to a whiskey factory, I want to see deer.
Yeah.
So Watonga is built about people for passion for deer. So we have 29 species of deer and antelope.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing place. You actually self-drive buggies.
I've seen.
Yeah. And Ed Pope, the owner of the estate, there's only a few of us. There's Ed Pope, his wife Anna as well does all the PR, and then Molly, we've got Molly now. She's just come in from a West Midlands Safari Park, worked all over different zoos. Her expertise is fantastic on nutrition. She's just done a master's in nutrition. We're trying to not knocking zoos or safari parks, they all have their benefits, but what we want is a place to show that where animals can go back into the wild, they can't from the zoo environment because they're unnaturally fed artificial food. So this is a halfway house, I call it, where we have to re-educate animals how to eat naturally again. It takes a long time, sometimes a year. So we're looking at some of these animals, you know, are they browsers, are they greys or whatever. So again, you can come along, you hire a buggy, it's all pre-booked. Electric buggies, so nice and quiet. Our guides are amazing. We have a couple of guides that have been in Africa for 30 years, other ones from different environments, and we educate them on the deer or on the antelope, depending on what they're good at. We also have birds, and then you have an hour and a half tour, learning from the guides and hopefully going away with a better understanding about deer and antelope. And the conservation
it looks amazing. I mean, David obviously introduced you to me.
Yeah.
I genuinely, you know, I didn't know anything about it. I looked, I was just blown away. Absolutely. And even like since then, I was like, oh, I've got Julian coming on. But again, it's almost like a bit of a hidden gem. Not loads of people know about it. So I was really pleased because we can shout about this.
Yeah, it's because it's. I think the thing is we're private. You know, Ed's a farmer. He has to make the estate work on the farm. Yeah. So you know, we wanted to do it because we had passion about it. But you know, it has to pay. And we haven't got a massive PR budget, so if we can get the word out there, the best we can, you know.
Well, hopefully we'll you guys will already be watching pictures. We'll try and overlay some pictures. Of different
that'd be
things
fantastic.
Over the top.
Yeah, and we've got lodges as well. So Ed come up with the idea of houses on the estate. Let's make them a lodge. So I said, well, let's have buggies with the lodges. So the unique thing is you can stay in the lodge. You can go to around Norfolk, which is just amazing, or from first thing in the morning to just in the evening. You can go out in the buggy as long as you want all day. Right. So you can just sit there in the buggy privately on your own, which is very unique. We've got bongo, which there's 106 left in the world from Amadea Mountains in Kenya. We've got part of the breeding program there. We have busted, only found in Salisbury other than us. You know, potentially maybe, who knows, we might do a release program in Norfolk. The last one was shot out at Elvin Estate in 1832. Right. We have white-lipped deer found in Tibet, the highest altitude deer in the world. There's only 72 in captivity. And all these things, you know, I'm a deer nut. So you're going to learn about all these things when you come along and speak to our guides, you know.
Hopefully that's what you're there for. So
I think the other thing is we're very open about it, and I want to mention this, is that, you know, we're very open that we breed in cull. And I want to mention this because it's really important. A lot of people shy away from culling, you know. And the way I want to explain it is that at places I've worked, zoos and safari parks, they use different things to stop the animals breeding. And with this, you get negatives like dwarfism, overshot jaw, you get infertility. So
is that through means of like hormones and
yes,
things like that?
Yeah, exactly. Which humans know that with females having to have hormone things. So I didn't like that. So we tried an experiment with putting females separate, very endangered females, so we didn't have to cull them. After 4 or 5 years, we put a male back because we wanted to breed that species infertile. So that didn't work. So why can't we breed and cull? Wolves, bears, all these predators we used to have would, you know, not very nicely kill an animal. So what we try and do is manage a population. We cull out the small, the inferior. Also, you know, I go around the world and see a lot of captive animals in not the right antler structure. And it's important to keep the right antler structure because that's what nature designed. So at Watonga, when we're culling, you know, we wait for the 2-year-olds to come maybe, and we make sure the antler formation is right. If it's wrong, then we cull that animal out. And we've got different organisations coming, BAS, BDS. I said to the ladies group that's going to come with us, they're going to come in the autumn, and we're going to cull a deer. I'm going to butcher it, I'm going to cook it. We have a lovely little barbecue out in the middle of the reserve. We cook it and talk about, you know, these different things about what I'm just talking about, Watonga and what we do, and educate more people, really.
Sounds really, really good. I'm you know, I want to go.
Yeah, you must come along.
If you can help me arrange that, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Thanks for coming and talking about it. And if anyone has got any questions for Julian specifically, then drop them in the comments. I'll try and answer them if it's simple. If not, I'll text you and say,
thank you very much.
How do I answer this question? Both your websites will be in the description as well.
Yes, lovely.
And Red Oak.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. The show's been absolutely amazing so far. If you haven't managed to get up, make sure you check it out next year. Give the video a like and hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you soon for the next video.